What's up, everyone? Welcome to my WoW PvP guide for bad players. I'm going to show you to get to 1800. War Within just launched today. I don't have early access because I think it's a waste of money, and I'll wait a couple days. But nonetheless, it's a whole new expansion, and a whole new season for PvP is going to start. Everything's changed. Everyone's starting from scratch. It's going to be fun. Everyone says PvP's dead. It's dying. It's bad. Too hard. You can't get into it. Nah, it's not dead. I think it's actually the best it's ever been, and I think it's only going to get better. I think Solo Shuffle revitalized WoW PvP, and I think BG Blitz is going to put it over the top. Now, that being said, WoW can be intimidating in PvP, and it can be tough. But I will tell you, I am not great or good even at WoW PvP. My hands are just awful. I can barely operate the mouse like a human. My reaction time is atrocious. Things happen way too fast for me to process. And of course, I am old as dirt. So I have all those things going against me, but it doesn't matter. I still enjoy WoW PvP. I still hit 1800, and you can too. I'm going to give you the tips that got me there. I hit 1800 on healer, range DPS, and melee DPS in 2s arenas and solo shuffle arenas. It's not as hard as you think it is. Yes, it's intimidating. Yes, it's tough at first, but you can break through that wall. I never thought I would. I gave up on WoW PvP, man, like Warlords of Draenor, but Dragonflight got me back into it. So, you can get back into it, or if you're new, this will help you. Don't be afraid. Get into WoW PvP. Here are my tips to get to 1800. Okay, so the first thing you want to work on is what your class does, how it wins. So for Feral Druids, basically how they win is they apply bleeds, build up their combo points, and keep their bleeds up. And once you get your bleeds going and stay going, then you're going to want to do big bites. Simple as that. You're a mobile class for the most part. You can shapeshift out of CC, and you have the best CC in the game with Cyclone. So again, there's way more to Druids in this, but that's their path to victory. So for example, let's say you're a warrior. Your path to victory is keeping pressure, constant pressure. You're not the most durable, but you can kind of last long, and you want to apply deep wounds to your target. And warriors, they prevent healing. So that's kind of their path to victory. Every class has their own path. Like if you're a mage, you just kite people and just spam CC and stuff like that. But it's important to know how your class operates, obviously, if you're new. So, and again, this is might be a little bit like for newer players, but again, it's important when you're getting into PvP for the first time to know how your class wins. You don't just go in there and just smash a bunch of buttons and stuff like that. You actually got to know how your class wins. So I remember when I first got into Warrior, I didn't understand that ages ago. I didn't know how a warrior should win. I just wanted to press a bunch of buttons. So, and another thing too, which is helpful for me when you're practicing your rotations and knowing how to win, is this is the opener for Ferals, and basically these are tell me one icons, and I just got this druid to level 80, and I haven't done PvP in quite a long time with it, and a few expansions, but it's nice having that for muscle memory when you're learning your class. Just to know that burst, so it's second nature to you. So when it pops up, you can just flow with it, and again, second nature, so you don't miss a beat. And yeah, that's kind of how Feral Druid works, and how your class works. You gotta know how you win in PvP. Every class has a different path, and it's nice to know. And speaking of knowing the path to win, I do got to give a shout out to Snoopy, because when I got back into Feral, I wasn't exactly sure, because the class has changed a lot over the past, expansions, and his guides are awesome. And I recommend, if you're getting into PvP, find someone who has good guides. Maldiva is another example from my Affliction Warlock. I learned a lot from his guide. He gives tons of good, useful information. So find somebody. There's tons of them. And I also like to check out their streams too, because you can always ask some questions. Most people in PvP are super friendly who do PvP, and you hop in their stream, they will definitely help you out with your class most of the time. They're super cool. Like Maldiva is really cool. I'm asking tons of questions. Hey, what do you think about this build? Or what do you think about mastery? Or, you know, I keep dying to this. What do you recommend? And Supatees is another good guy. He does a lot of, he knows every class. So check those guys out. Check out their guides and stuff like that. I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but, you know, some people don't do that. Some people just go into PvP and you just want to go. You know, they just want to go fast. But, I don't know. Like I said, I learned a lot from Snoopy. Snoopy's awesome, and he's a great resource. Definitely check out people for help. All right, staying alive. So it's important to know how to win in an arena or a PvP scenario, but it's equally, if not more important, to know not how to lose by dying. So staying alive is very important, obviously, and it's tough when you're new because a lot of things are coming at you a mile a minute, and there's so many buttons to press. So I'm on my Disc Priest, and basically the general rule of thumb with Disc Priest is stay hidden. This is called pillar humping. You stick behind a wall or a pillar, heal, and you're out of sight. Do your heals, and then get out. Stuff like that. You also, another thing you do is kite when someone's coming after you. You know, you can use your abilities like Void Tendrils to slow them down. You know, and then when they're chasing you, you just run. Use your feather. So that's when people are trying to catch you. But for the most part, you just want to stay out of things. The quickest way to die, or have your teammates die, as a Disc Priest, is being caught out in the open in CC. You know, you get Cyclone or something like that, and you're dead. So, and along with your Speed Burst, you also have Fade, which when you are getting Cycloned or CC'd, you can press it, and you can dodge something really quick. It takes timing and practice, but I've gotten okay at it, and it works pretty well. So, and again, with the Disc Priest, your instant heals, and then when you do have to do a flash heal with a cast, you just make sure you're hiding behind a pillar. And now for personal cooldowns. So I recommend when you think you're going to get hurt pretty bad when the damage is coming, I like to preemptively. The minute I think I'm in trouble, I'll pop my cooldowns. And so, for example, knowing your cooldowns, the first is Desperate Prayer. It's a minute and a half cooldown. I'm not sure what the modifiers are in PvP. It might be lower, it might be higher, depending on what you choose. But basically, anytime I feel like I'm in trouble, no matter what, I'm popping Desperate Prayer. I don't want to die. I'd rather pop it and not need it and not die than not pop it, need it, and die. It's kind of the way I play, you know, with a lot of classes, especially the Disc Priest, because again, you're not like tanky or mobile, but you can survive pretty easy. You have that. You have Power Word Life, which when you're under, 35% health, you can use that. Again, you have your Void Tendrils when you're kiting. You can press that and tendrils will pop up and slow the enemy down. Other than that, you don't have a whole lot. Trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, you can fear people, but I save my fear as defense, never offense most of the time. So if someone's coming at me, I can just pop my fear and then just kite them or whatever. And oh yeah, you do have Powered Barrier. You can use it on yourself. I really like to save it for when there's a group of, 2 people. I'll use it on them, and I'll often run to it. So that's another cooldown, you can use with yourself. I mean, like I said, if you're going to die, I use it. I'd rather use it and not die than, not use it. But again, and another thing you can do too is, if you're desperate, there's like nothing left for you to do, you can just use your Power Infusion if you have it up. That makes you heal a lot quicker. But that's not very effective, but sometimes you have to use it. That's just the way it goes. You can just spam them flash heals a lot quicker without it. So, yeah, and again, for this class, you just want to stay hidden. Hide behind walls and pillars. Don't get caught open in CC. And use your feather when you need to. And that's how you stay alive. Some other classes use different methods, obviously. But, most healers are just going to follow the plan of heal and hide. Heal and hide. Okay, so this is justfar.com. There's a lot of good info on here. So if you're following a guide and they give you all the stuff you need, okay, that's cool. But if you kind of want to figure some things out on your own, like about gearing and what abilities, it's sometimes a good idea to check out Drustvar, because you could just click on whatever PvP situation you're interested in. And let's say you're playing Rogue, right? You want to see what rogues are doing. You play, let's say you play Assassin. Now, I don't look at the top of the ladder because these guys are just too good. And a lot of times they'll do things that people like me can't do. You know, lesser skilled players, they run things, they run abilities and use gearing that I just can't comprehend. So I like to go around like the 2K mark. I mean, even 2300 is still too high. I prefer right around the 1800 to 2000, so I'll just pick somebody random. And you can see what abilities they're running, and you can see what kind of gear they have, what their secondary stats are, what they're focusing on. And a lot of times, these aren't exactly set in stone. For example, on my warrior, you know, I ran a high haste, high burst build, and then the way I was playing, I just found high mastery worked better for me. And sometimes it's a good experiment, but for the most part, I usually stick to what most people are doing. Like, I'll look at 5 guys, and I'll say, okay, well, all the 5 of these guys have high mastery, or all 5 of these guys have high haste mostly, and most of the guys are running these abilities, give or take one. And I kind of make my decisions based on that. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll follow a guide from somebody on YouTube or something on Twitch. And then when I get into a rut and I'm not progressing, sometimes I'll switch it up. And because metas change, abilities change every week. And sometimes I'll find something, you know, different, and it'll work for me. You know, like I remember on my warrior, again, I hit a wall and I was running a high haste, high verse. And then I just thought, you know, man, let me try something new. And I boosted my mastery up a lot and got mastery gear. I started killing it. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to check Drustvar out. You can learn a lot from it. It's not the most important thing, but it can give you a little bit of edge. And I highly recommend using Drustvar. Or any other PvP site. There's other PvP sites. But Drustvar is the one I use the most. Okay, so UI. This is kind of a controversial topic because everyone has their own opinion on it and how their UI should be. My rule of thumb is whatever works for you, and keep going with it if it's working for you. But if you're having trouble with it, if it's overloaded or whatever, you need to change it. And I've had some weird UIs that didn't work for me. I found this method works for me the best. Again, I recommend keeping your UI as clean and concise as possible with as much open screen as you can. This worked for me for a multitude of reasons. I have my cooldowns here, all my spells, all my abilities, keybound. And then I use Tell Me When for my icons, and that might be archaic. I don't know what people use anymore, but that's what I use. I'm the most comfortable with it. And this will be gone. I just have that for learning purposes, but I usually keep my big personal cooldowns for like staying alive over here or over here. I need to add a couple of them. Again, this druid's just hit level 80, so I'm still perfecting it. But for the most part, you know, and I have a DPS cooldown here, and I have some of my utility cooldowns over here. And what's great is on all of my characters, no matter who I'm playing, whether I'm playing my Disc Priest, my Warlock, my Warrior, all these abilities will be over here. Whenever I load into a new character, they'll still be here. So, and I keep a lot of my cooldowns over here that are important for me. And I always right here, I'll show you something too. So, Blood Talons, I like to keep track of that. I'm dumb, and I want to know and make sure these are up. It's important for your rotation. And I have a little, so it's when I don't have it up, Blood Talons that is, when I don't have it active, this won't be here, and I'll know, hey, I don't have Blood Talons. So that's a proc, and I like to have my procs because, like I said, there's so much going on. I don't know what's going on, and this doesn't really impede too much on the field. So that's how that works. See, it's off now. I know before I do anything, I need to have Blood Talons. So I want to get Blood Talons back up. There it is. It's a very important DPS metric for me. And then again, I keep these abilities here. I keep one of my stuns, you know, so I know That's something I'm going to need to know. These are important cooldowns. This isn't really as much of an important cooldown, my brutal slash, but I just like to know how many charges I have. You know, and it goes away. I'm like, oh man, I have no brutal slash charges. I got to do some things. And then my Tiger's Fury is an important cooldown. Same thing with Feral Frenzy. Now I'd like to know where all those are at. Some cooldowns I can keep track of down here. You know, like for example, Adaptive Swarm. You know, I can kind of keep an eye on that. And I like to keep a DPS cooldown and one of my personal survival cooldowns over here, like Barkskin. There's a couple cooldowns, and maybe Barkskin's not the most important. I haven't really looked into it much, but you know, you have Survival Instincts and Renewal, so those are some important cooldowns. But you know, I haven't perfected this UI yet, but this is kind of how I set them up. Like, I keep the zone for my stuff, and the rest I like to keep open. And of course, I have your Gladius or your Arena over there. But I like to keep it open. And again, tailored to how you are. Like, I'm very awful with keeping track of things. You know, I'm man, my my ability to remember things is so bad, and it's so off that I need constant reminders a lot of time. But I try to keep it in a way that's not cluttered. Like, you know, like I said, for example, I'll forget that that's up if I don't have it here. I can't remember everything, you know, so that's how that works for me. And, you know, like I said, however your UI is, do what works for you, and this is what works for me. And one of the biggest complaints people have is, you know, there's so much stuff going on in PvP. And I agree, I think PvP should be simplified, and that's why for me, I keep these. And just another thing too, to demonstrate real quick, where my, when I'm doing PvP, let's see here, pre-made groups, whatever, ID group. So my bars in my solo shuffle will be 1, 2, and 3 stacked right here. So that's kind of out of the way for me. Like I said, I keep this zone for my abilities and buttons, keybinds. This is for my health bars, you know, in my arena team. So these don't really get in the way for me too much. I can maybe put them over here, but it's comfortable for me and it works for me. So I go with it. But yeah, I mean, UI, like I said, man, I can't emphasize enough. Whatever works for you. I've seen some of the best players in WoW. Their UI looks like a spaceship. I mean, there's stuff here, there's stuff here, there's stuff here, there's even stuff here, and I'm like, man, how do these guys do it? But they're good, you know. They're really good. There's some players I follow on Twitch. I watch them, and like they have UIs and add-ons I can't even fathom, and I don't even know how they work, but it works for them. And again, this works for me. Like I said, the most important things for me is remembering procs and remembering my abilities, because I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 40 abilities right here. Plus, I don't know, man. Like for me, I can't keep track of this stuff, you know. So I like to keep my important cooldowns right here, and some other important cooldowns right here. And I'm gonna add to these too as I perfect this character. But yeah, I mean, it's important to have a good UI, and that could be the difference between winning or losing in all arenas, really. I mean, to be honest with you, it's most of these points are important, but you know, UI is pretty important. It's one of the major ones, so hopefully this helps with the UI. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and that applies to PvP for sure. So once you have your gear, and once you have your UI set up, and you're comfortable with your class, your rotation, and how to win, how to not die, you're going to jump into some arena skirmishes and some random BGs. In my opinion, that's the best way to learn, because you're going against people that want to kill you. The pressure's on, but if you lose, who cares? They're random. There's no MMR involved, and no one's going to care if you suck. No one's going to, well, some people might bother you, but screw them. You're there to learn, have fun. You don't need to worry about being perfect. You'll learn a lot about your class, and I recommend doing this as much as possible until you're super comfortable, where everything's muscle memory, everything's flowing smoothly, and everything's second nature to you before you go into actual rated PvP content, because you're just not going to have fun unless you really have a grasp of what you're doing and how PvP works. So, yeah, that's the way to do it. And you'll get your honor gear and you'll get your honor points. So it's not just a waste. And with warbands, you can stack that up for your alt. So, yeah, that's the way to do it. And again, keep doing that as much as you can till you're sick of it. And then when you're sick of it, do it some more. So that way, when you're in those arenas, you're in those rated battlegrounds, you're battle ready, you know what to do, and everything comes together, and you're able to get that MMR. Okay, guys, you've made it this far. I'm going to give you the most OP tip to get to 1800 if you're not good like me. But first, let's appreciate Longclaw Island, one of my favorite places in the game. I love it here. It's in Valdrakken. It's a little island on the southwest. It's great. But the most OP tip is ask for help from other people in the game. Believe it or not, PvP isn't that toxic. It's not dead. There's tons of people who are good that are willing to help you out and be friendly with you and gladly show you the way. In fact, a lot of what I learned is from other people in PvP. Trust me, it feels lame asking someone for help, but once you kind of break that wall and talk to people, they'll give you good tips. I mean, like I said, sometimes I'll be in an arena and, you know, I'll just say, hey, wow, you did a ton of damage. How did you do that? You know, what am I doing wrong? And I'll chat with them, and it's fun. And especially in 2v2 arenas, I've learned a ton, because you go in the lobby and you hook up with some people. There's so many good players that are just looking to have fun and get fast queues with players that aren't that great. Me being one of them. You know, a lot of times I'll go into 2v2 arena and I'll say, hey, I'm not the best. And I'll say, that's cool, I'll heal you anyways. And then you get to learn how to play the game. And they'll say, hey, here's why you died. Don't do this again. And they'll give you these good tips. And I pick up a lot from them. In fact, I was in the 2v2 arena, and this guy was playing warrior, and I was healing with my disc priest. And this dude was awesome. And I just said, hey, man, you do incredible damage. What's your rotation like? What's your secret? What are you doing? And he chatted with me, and he's like, hey, I do this, I do that. I said, wow, okay, I wasn't doing this. And then it turns out this guy plays every class. He knows everything about WoW. And I'm still friends with him to this day. He's on my friends list. And I chat with him here and there. And, you know, he's just a super cool guy. Super fun to talk to. Super friendly. And, you know, even myself, like, I'm no one special. Trust me. But I'll go into LFG sometimes if I just want to play. And I'll see a new guy, you know, like, I remember one time I was playing with a monk. And he just had in his LFG, hey, and trust me, I hate LFG. LFG is the bane of my existence. But for twos, I make an exception because you can meet some cool people. And like this monk, he was new, and I said, hey man, I'll heal with you, you know, like no big deal. And he's like, well, I suck. I'm gonna lose your rating. And I said, I don't care. You know, I've already got my goals I wanted for the season. And, you know, I healed him, and whatever tips I could give him, there weren't many because I'm not the best monk player, and, you know, I'm really not the best person to give tips, you know, in general for everything. But, you know, what I knew, I helped them out, and we won some games. In fact, we won more games than we lost. And, you know, I played about, you know, a good dozen games with them, and I said, all right, man, well, I'm gonna get going. Add me if you'd like. And you meet people and you learn a lot. And like I said, the most OP tip is asking for help. There's people that are way better than us, and when you're in these you know, LFGs, just be upfront and just say, hey, I'm looking for someone to play with, you know. And you'll run into people that are better than you, and they'll help you out. They'll maybe take you under their wing and show you some things. I learned most of what I've learned winning in PvP from asking for help. Always ask for help when you can. Give it a try. You'll be surprised how friendly people are. That being said, I'm no expert in this stuff. This video is made for people who had a rough time in PvP like myself, aren't the best players, but still want to enjoy it, get that 1800, get that transmog, enjoy their time. I hope this helps you guys, you know. Give me a like, give me a subscribe if you want. I'm going to make more content. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.